Alright guys, what's going on there? So this is going to be my part 3 video for the VRChat Avatar series redone. So a little bit of an update for you guys in terms of using this model. So I've discovered that the Clown's Blight flower is completely broken when in terms of applying the animation onto the flower. I don't know if Dead by Daylight's using a different armature method to rig up animations to work on characters in game. I don't know what the issue is with this one, but I can't really quite animate it properly using the original animations from the game. I'm going to have to showcase getting animations working from Dead by Daylight using a different method. I'm working on that as we speak. And I think I'm just going to use the Dr. Blight eyeballs as an example, like I did with my last older series with VRChat avatars. So I think I'm going to just do that, redo it for you guys, because that one seems to work perfectly fine. Again, I don't know if behavior is using a different form of an armature to get animations to work properly on characters in Dead by Daylight. So for whatever reason, when I apply the animation to the flower's armature, the arms completely just like fold inward on itself, and the animation doesn't really play properly. So I don't really know what the issue is. Maybe it could be a bug that behavior did themselves. I don't know. Considering it works completely fine in my leaked video that I did a few days ago, I don't know. Don't really have anything to say about it other than that. So what I did was I basically had to go back into Blender and I had to start all over again, and I had to re-rig the clown from scratch again. But this time I basically merged the flower armatures to the body using the Cats plugin, as you recall from my part 1 video using Blender. So I just re-rigged them up again, and then I saved them as an FBX with the flower attached to the armature. So when you see this clown model in Unity, you're going to realize that I reattached it to them. I'm probably just going to manually add a animation, like make the animation from scratch in Unity to make those arms move. It shouldn't take me no more than 30 minutes. I basically did the same thing with the Demogorgon's mouth opening. If you are familiar with my VRChat avatar world, I made that animation in-house myself, and it literally only took me maybe 30 minutes to maybe 40. So it's not really too hard to animate things. You just got to kind of play around with it. The things that you're going to need for Unity is, one, you're going to need VRChat's Unity version that they require. I'll have a link in the description below for all this stuff because I don't really remember what Unity version it is that they require, off the top of my head in any way. You're going to need VRChat SDK. And then you're also going to need a two-sided shader. The two-sided shader is basically used for hair and anything that has like cloth dynamics, it seems like, for the most part. The reason why you need a two-sided shader is because most video games these days use a method called backface culling. And what backface culling is it's basically, I'm going to say this in a very amateur-y kind of way, but backface culling basically is a way to save the computer's performance by making it just a tiny mesh, so to speak. Like I said, I'm saying this very amateur-ish, but so here you have a mesh. And then you'll see, like, when I plug the clown model into Unity, you're going to see immediately that his cloth is see-through, like transparent. Again, this is because they use a backface culling. They don't use, like, that whole mesh for his cloth is not solid, basically. It is actually just one-sided. That whole mesh is just one-sided. And so to get the computer to trick itself into saying, oh, there's actually a mesh there, they just basically double side the texture instead of doubling the vertices on the back of that cloth. So if that kind of makes sense. So yeah, we use a shader to basically fix this issue within Unity. Again, I'll have the link in the description below for you guys to acquire the two-sided shader. You just basically plug it in and drop it into your assets folder on VRChat here, or Unity, I should say. So let's just go ahead and open this right up, guys. I don't want to get this too lengthy here. And you can see all the avatars that I've done over the year and a half almost. So we're working with the clown seating entertainer. So when you have your FBX, or you already have Unity downloaded, ready to go, you have your VRC SDK loaded up and ready to go. Usually you can just double click the Unity package and it automatically set it up for you. So a little thing when it comes to Unity, it's about folder setups. So if we go to the assets, usually this is just what you're going to first be introduced to is your assets folder. So what I personally like to do, again, here's your VRC SDK that will be in here when you double click the Unity package. I like to set up my folders in two different things. One, I have maps and I have avatars. So I set up a folder for my avatars and then I set up a folder for my maps. So any maps that I'm working on for VRChat will be in here. It includes props, interactable objects, pretty much the same thing that you would see in the U model would be in this folder. And then my avatars, I put avatars, models, and again, this is just for you guys to organize your own folders. You can follow my same method or you can do your own thing. I just like to keep my things nice and neat because otherwise I'm going to start losing shit and forgetting shit. At one point I was working with Death Garden and I had imported the T800. So, and then miscellaneous was like the PTB and Lewis from Dead by Daylight. Like, this is just a miscellaneous folder, but here's my Dead by Daylight folder. These are some scenes that I'm kind of just messing around with, so don't pay attention to those for the most part. I have a weapons folder, a sounds folder, slashers, a scenes folder, because our scenes, when we save our scenes, I usually like to set a character, a scene for each character, so they have their own scene, so it's easy to just load up and just save to that. Consumables, which would be like med kits, health kits, toolboxes, that kind of stuff. So campers, so what we're going to do is go into slashers because we are dealing with a killer here. So here's all my slashers here, and all the materials go in here. You got your textures folder, which I put all the textures in here. Just throw all that shit in there. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to grab our clown seething entertainer here, drag and drop that right in. Okay, we're going to click on our clown entertainer here, and then we're going to go all the way over here to inspector and then go over to the materials tab. I'm very amateur when it comes to this kind of stuff. I don't really know how to set materials rather than using the old legacy method. Apparently you can point materials in the right direction, but I can never get it working. I'm pretty sure there's a tutorial on how to get this working. I just used the old-fashioned method, and I literally just used the external materials legacy, and you can use the same one if you'd like, and I just hit apply. And what this does is, yes, it's kind of cluttery, and it creates all these materials in this folder, and then you have to do it manually, but I've only found this method to ever work for me, so that's why I'm doing it this way. So yeah, anytime you hit legacy, it's going to automatically drag those materials and put them into the materials folder in here. So we're just going to go into our materials folder, and remember in Blender we had to color the materials all white, if you remember that. And the materials were labeled as such. So here's MIGK accessory 009. So again, when we're texturing this guy up, the textures are pretty much going to have the same name as the material name, only they're labeled T_GK accessory 009 rather than MIGK accessory 009. It's pretty much common sense. MI stands for material, T stands for texture. So when we're rigging this guy up, oh, and one more last thing, if you go into slashers, be sure to grab your clown or whatever model you're working with and drag them into your new untitled project here. So now we have them here, and I like to keep the sun. Usually the sun will be in this direction when you first have a new project. I usually like to face it down like that so the light's shining on them. Go into materials here. Okay, and this is where we're going to start texturing them up. So we got to find the texture file GK accessory, and usually you can just type in GK accessory just like it says here, and then we're going to find the texture for it. So here it is, GK accessory 009, and as you can see it textures it in the right position. And let me go ahead and set this back to default. Okay, so as you recall here, this material here, this is what I was talking about when in terms of back face culling. So as you can see on this side, you can't see his butt cloth, but if I turn here, you can see his butt cloth. So that's what I was talking about, is that this mesh is not solid technically. So what we have to do is use that two-sided shader that I told you guys to put into Unity, and this will fix that issue. So if we basically go to our two standard shader there instead of the standard shader, it automatically puts in the other face of that texture in there, as you see. And this applies to that whole entire material, so even up under here into the legs you can see. So yeah, pretty nifty little shader. So yeah, you've already added your texture. Now your metallic, for metallic, it's going to be the ORM files if you recall. So GK accessory, and here's our ORM file. It's usually the greenish looking ones. Okay, and then our normal map. So let's see, GK accessory, and here's the normal map, and you're just going to hit fix. If it says that you need to fix it, just hit fix. Occlusion, GK accessory, and I don't think, oh, and yeah, occlusion is also going to be the ORM. Same for metallic, it's going to be the ORM as well. Let's go ahead and click that. So sometimes these models will have emission files. Again, that's the BDE files, as you recall from my texturing video. So emissions basically bleed out any luminescence that the texture is doing. So basically the blight models, for example, it's that gooey shit that is on their clothes and things like that, or coming out of their face. So basically if we hit emission here, you're going to see it turns all white or black, whatever color it is that is default. And what we're going to do is we're going to search for that BDE file. So GK accessory, and just look for BDE, and it's this one right here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to set it to the color that the goo looks like in game. And I already usually have a preset for this. So we're going to copy this hex color here. It's FF9E00. I find that this value looks pretty damn close to that orange goop in the game. So we're going to use that hex here, copy and paste. And it's only going to be applied to his flower here. As you can see the goop is kind of on his flower. Let's see, if we turn this dark here, you'll see that that goop kind of shines in the dark no matter what, and that's what luminescence basically does, or the emission file does. So I'm just going to hit Control-Z on the keyboard to go back now. And one final thing before I forget, since this is one of the textures that we applied an alpha map to, and again, this is no different with hair textures, as you'll see when we do the hair for him. You want to make sure that you set the rendering mode to cutout, and this will basically cut out that part of the texture to basically only show this part of the texture on this mesh. So pretty neat little trick there. The reason why it's really jaggy and things like that though up in here is because I'm not using any type of anti-aliasing. Usually TAA is usually what Dead by Daylight uses to hide a lot of the jaggies in the hair and things like that to make it look kind of smooth and more realistic. So a lot of game engines have their own little techniques to basically smooth out these edges, but it works just fine. I mean, for the purpose of VRChat, you're just kind of playing around with the model, and VRChat doesn't use a specific rendering technique. So yeah, so that material is pretty much done. You can now move on to the next one. So it's just going to be any of the white ones that you haven't already finished. So any of these white ones that I see here are probably going to be for this model. So now we're going to do GK arms here. So we'll go back to the front here. All right, GK arms. There we go. And then the metallic is the ORM. As you can see, when I apply the ORM, it creates that sheen that I was talking about. As you can see, like the bubbles look kind of gross looking, like sweaty, and just overall it adds more detail to the mesh. This will even look even better once we add the normal map. So GK arms, and here's the normal maps, and hit fix now. And now you can see the more finer detail within that nasty goop that's up in there. So. And then the occlusion, again, is just the ORM file, GK arms. See, as you can see there, it kind of got a little bit more darker in these crevices once we did that. Now for emission, it's the same thing. We're just going to copy that hex value there. And then we're going to look for the BDE file, so GK arms. And there you go. You can see that that is going to emit from right here, it looks like, and right up in here. Okay, his arms are done. Moving on to the next one. This one didn't have any sort of alpha map tied to it, so we don't need to worry about two-sided shaders or anything like that. Okay, so the hair here, so this one is going to have a two-sided shader, and I should talk about this. I probably should have talked about this in the last video for texturing. If you guys are having real hard time finding the hair textures for some of these models, always check the campers folder. Sometimes it creates a campers folder, and you'll find some of the hair textures are skewed around in there. And you just got to kind of look at the hair textures and the maps and things like that, and kind of see, oh, he's probably going to be using this alpha map and this hair texture over here. And you basically just got to find it. It's a little bit of a hide and seek kind of thing, but you'll eventually find it. And if not, if you don't find it directly from the export itself, you may have to go into the common arc folder. The common arc folder is located within UModel. It's located characters, campers, and you'll find that common arc folder. That's where a lot of the models share the same hair textures, or is going to be in that model. It goes for both slashers and campers. So just go and have a look in those files inside the common arc folder, and you usually find the hair texture. In this case, for the clown here, where I found his hair texture file, it was actually located in the campers folder, and then I used it said that I had to use a alpha map that was from Steve, so I had to use his hair alpha map, and then the common art folder had his actual hair texture. So I had to grab his alpha map and then that hair texture, and basically had to put it up into Photoshop. Okay, so now that that's out of the way, so GK hair. So here's the hair that I was talking to you guys about. So I just relabeled it too. You're going to see that it's kind of labeled differently. I renamed the hair to kind of simulate that it's actually from that outfit. So I said it was GK hair 009 underscore BC, so I renamed it. All right, as you can see here, it's very blocky and gross looking. So how we fix that is, again, we want to use the two-sided shader, and that brings out more of the hair. And then we're going to use cutout, and pretty much done. Usually I always like to set most of my alpha cutoffs at 0.5. It seems to be the sweet spot. You can kind of play around with this to see what it is that works better for you. But yeah, I usually always use 0.5 and it works just fine. And then I forgot to add the normal map here. Sometimes you'll find normal maps for the hairs, sometimes not. It doesn't really matter if you use a normal map or not. You don't really see it, honestly. It's so small that you're not going to see the detail in the hair, so you can leave it alone if you want and just use the texture. It never comes with an ORM. It never comes with a collision. It usually will either have a normal map or it doesn't. So that one's pretty much done. So GK head here, GK head. And then there's the head there. It's already looking good as is. Okay, GK head, ORM file. Alright, GK head, ORM file. Oops, no, this is the normal map. I screwed up. GK head. There we go. Hit fix now. Alright, starting to look a lot better. GK head. The ORM file, there you go, you saw some more detail get in there, emissions, and then we're going to copy and paste that value again in there, and then the color, GK head, it's going to be that emission file, which is this one right here, and there you go. Now in the dark, you're going to see his eyes, his nose, and his mouth glow, as well as some of the goop coming out of his mouth. So unfortunately, I couldn't figure out, or we don't have the option to pour over the particle effects for it actually dripping out of his mouth. Unfortunately, I really wish we had those particle effects. You could probably come up with something on your own, or find something in the Unity shop that will simulate something similar. I really wish I had some tools like that, but I don't, unfortunately. But this will work just fine, honestly. Alright, so let's go ahead and move on to the next one. So GK legs. So it was this one. Okay. Let's see, GK legs. It's this one right here. Okay. GK legs. Normal map, fix now. GK legs. There you go. I think this one also has emissions. GK legs. Yep, it does, and there you go. Now you can see that some of the emissions is coming out right here. Alright, and I think our last one is just going to be this torso. Oh, the syringe, yeah. So he has a syringe on the back here, so GK syringe, there it is. GK syringe, ORM, GK syringe, normal map, fix now. GK syringe, ORM, emission. There we go. GK syringe, and select the BDE there. Okay, and again for ORMs, you can usually use this save the smoothness all the way up and the occlusion all the way up. I usually just leave them those values as is. All right, so GK torso. There it is. GK torso. So that's 009. So we need the ORM. There's the ORM. Oh no, we're at normal map right now. GK torso. Fix now. GK torso. There's the ORM. GK torso. And there's the ORM again, and there you have it. And now let's go ahead and get the emissions. GK torso. Yeah, and there you go. Now if we put this guy in the dark here, you'll see that it emits now, regardless of if it's light or dark. It always shows that part of the texture. So it's kind of creepy, kind of cool to mess around with people in VRChat with this, just to have this kind of luminescence going about here. You can see everything's kind of just illuminating off him as it should. So yeah, that's pretty much how you texture up the model. You're pretty much done at that point. So now what we got to do now is we got to get into rigging him up to work properly as an avatar now. So for campers, or sorry, where is he at? Slashers. Okay, so we're going to click on that model now, and we're going to go into rig, set generic to humanoid, and then we're going to create from model, hit apply. And then we're going to configure this, and we can save this as a new scene for us now. So I usually like to save it in my scenes folder here, and I call it just as is clown, parentheses, the name of the cosmetic type, or if it's just the clown himself, seething entertainer. And then we're going to hit save. Oakley dokley. Let's see if I can zoom in. There we go. So you're gonna immediately notice that his arms are, his fingers are bent like inwards on each other. The only way that I fixed this, because it's kind of more harder to edit this individually, as you can see, in trying to get this to look just right. So usually what I usually like to do is set it to sample bind pose, or yeah, bind pose. And you can see it's just kind of a basic ass like T-pose, and all this red we're gonna have to fix except for the fingertips. The fingertips you're gonna leave alone. So we're gonna set this. You just basically keep rotating the arms and things like that until you see green. I try to get it as good as possible, as straight as possible. And then we're gonna select the other one. Just keep rotating until you see green, and it lines up pretty accurately. Okay, that one's good. Now we're going to rotate these fingers to the right position, so right there looks good. There looks good. Okay, that looks good. This one could probably be rotated a little to the right. Okay, my right, maybe your left. Rotate this to the right a bit, raise it up. Rotate to the right, raise it up, and there you have it. This one's now set. See, it's a lot easier doing it that way than to have to actually unfold the fingertips out. So, and you'll see that these say that they're red and that they're wrong, and they're not supposed to be like that. Just ignore those errors. It's completely fine. So we're now gonna go to this here. Same thing. Try to get it as straight as possible. I believe that looks good. Yeah, right around there. Oops. Okay, now we're going to turn this one. Almost got it. It looks good. Okay. Alright, now we're going to rotate this into green. Okay. Rotate this up, rotate that up. rotate, wrong bone. Rotate that up. I move that over a little bit, raise it up. Looks like I'm going to have to move this over a little bit more. There we go, it's in the green. I'm going to move over this middle finger as well, because I forgot to give it a little bit more space in between the fingers there. Move this over, bring it up, and bring it over a little more, until you see that it's in the green. There we go. So I may have to move this one over because there's not enough gap there. There, that looks good. Okay, and now that is set. Now your avatar is pretty much good to go now. Your upper chest, now Unity supports upper chest, so that's pretty cool. You no longer have to delete this. In the past, you actually had to delete the upper chest bone because Unity VRChat never used it. It would show an error if you did, but you can actually leave it now. I guess it supports upper chest now. So pretty much all these bones are set in the right positions. That's what's cool about cats, is it usually knows what bones to set as what, and then Unity plugs and plays them in all for you for the most part, so it's great. The only bones that you're going to want to delete, unless you're using Visamies and things like that. In this case, we're not using Visamies, so we're going to go ahead and delete the jawbone. You can leave the eyes, it doesn't really make a difference, but we definitely need to delete the jawbone. Otherwise, your model is always going to have his jaw is always going to remain open for whatever reason. I can't really explain it, so just go ahead and delete the jawbone from there on the keyboard. Just hit apply and done, and there you go. Your avatar is almost ready. Now the only thing you need to do now is click on your avatar, add component, and look for VRC avatar descriptor, and then we're going to set that value. So basically, when you put a descriptor, you'll see this little tiny white ball right here that's in his chest right now. That little white ball is actually where your camera is going to sit when you're playing as this avatar. So you want to set that ball somewhat in between his forehead here. I usually like to put it in his head, between his forehead, like a third eye. So 8.5 maybe. Okay, maybe 1.95. Yeah, that's about right. And 1.12. Okay, there we go. Now you see it's kind of very hard to see right here, but it's in this forehead, just as I was trying to mention. And there you go. You're pretty much done. Now the only thing you have to do then is basically hit VRChat, and then submit the VRChat build, like build and publish basically. It's very self-explanatory. I just don't want to show off my information, but yeah, you'll see this little VRChat SDK. If you don't have this tab, you just go into VRChat up here and then go show control panel, and then yeah, it'll have all that kind of stuff for you, and so forth. Okay, I was actually able to show off this build control panel without showing off my information. So this is basically what the build control panel looks like. So all you have to do basically is just hit build and publish here, and it's going to take some time to basically package up the avatar so it gets ready for Unity or VRChat. So give it a second here. Any day now. Depending on how many materials you use and how many meshes, it's just everything, it can take sometimes 3 minutes, 2 minutes to build. Doesn't usually take too long per se. So as you can see, it's already almost done. I've had some that kind of take a little while to build. Also depends if you're using a lot of animations too. So. And you guys can skip ahead of the video if you'd like, although as I say that, it's already about to be finished. Okay, and this is basically where you're greeted next. So depending on whether or not you're making these avatars for a world or not, you'd want to set them as public, but I mean, for most of your guys' cases, you'll probably want them as private for your own personal use. Since I do make avatars for my VRChat avatar world, I'm going to set it as public for my sake. So we're going to call it clown. Okay, so I don't have it saved to the clipboard. Clown seething entertainer, and that's usually how I'll name it there. This will be a picture of it. You can mess with the picture of where you want the pictures are going to show for the avatar by just messing with this little camera right here. If you move it around and stuff or move it closer, you can get whatever you want it to show as the image. So I always usually just use it in the default location. It's just fine for me. And then, yeah, you're going to want to mark some of these if it has a lot of these. I usually never do, though. Yeah, I know some of my avatars have blood and gore, but I never mark them and I don't get dinged for it. So I'm pretty sure you would want to mark it if it has nudity, sexuality, or other not safe for work and content. So let's go ahead and just hit upload here. So this could take a little while to upload to VRChat, depending again on how much crap your avatar has on it. So this could take just a little bit. Usually it doesn't take too long. Max probably 3 minutes again. So if you guys want to skip ahead of the video, you can do so. But after you basically upload it, it'll say that it's done, and you can basically go into VRChat, and it's already going to be in your avatar stuff. So yeah, you can just basically launch up VRChat and you're good to go. I'll basically show that really quick for you guys. I'm not going to get on VR. One, I don't actually have a way to play VR anymore since I have this 2K monitor. I need like a different, not an HDMI, but I think they call it like a Type-C cable to hook up the monitor. So I'm going to have to find another method to get both my monitor and VR working properly. So I'll just show you what it looks like, basically just basic, as if you're playing the desktop version of VRChat. But it should work with VR too, like works pretty much flawlessly, I would say. So it's great how VRChat can automatically detect the leg bones and all that, all your movements. Like you can literally play as this model, like almost simulated real life. It's really cool. That's a lot of the reason why I make these avatars for VRChat. Even though I don't really play VR much anymore, I still can understand why this is so fun for me to do and why other people would take enjoyment of this and just kind of role playing around with these avatars. And that's kind of why I do this. It's just really fun to do. Alright, and this is basically what the model looks like when he's all uploaded into VRChat after it's done uploading. If you go into your avatars, this is where your avatars will be located here. These are just all the ones that I've done for Dead by Daylight so far. Yeah, pretty nice stuff. In the next video, I'm going to be showing you how to basically getting the cloth dynamics, like his butt cloth back there to move, as well as the leg ones to move. Excuse me, damn. To move as well. And I may, as you can see his flower right there, I'm going to have to probably add a custom animation, like I said, to get those arms to move. But that's, like I said, it's not a problem. It's not probably going to take me all that long to do. I'm also going to use some dynamic bones to get his hair to kind of move around as he's moving, maybe even get his belly to move as he's moving, and that little belt piece that's kind of going into my leg, that I'll be able to get that to move as well. So yeah, you can basically crouch, you can prone with him. Again, it's a lot better when you have a VR headset because you can actually move around with this however which way you want. I'm just using the very basic desktop version right now. So very neat stuff. If you guys have any questions, comments, feel free to let me know. I'm always willing to help you guys out if you have any issues with getting models into the game. I know like texturing can kind of be tricky again when it comes to like the hair and things like that. So yeah, hopefully you guys have a good one, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.